Okay, here we are at Mike's barn outside of North Bend. Mike calls it a barn. Doesn't look like much of a barn to me. Or a fancy barn anyway. Here we go. Let myself in.
All right.
Here we are in Mike's listening room with
Hello.
Mike. How you doing, Mike?
You know, I'm good. I'm good. Life is good.
It looks good. Look at this. If we could get this thing to focus on it. Let's go right in. Why don't you give me a tour of your listening room?
All right. Well, should I turn the music down?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Well, start out with the sources, I guess, right?
Yes, why not?
Okay. So we have, on the top, we have turntables, all right? And the power supplies of my phono
Whoops.
stage.
Uh-oh, hold on. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have the power supplies of the phono stage. Okay, so one for each channel. Okay, it's a fully tube regulated phono. And the actual phono stage is here. And then there's a SUT, which is called a MC Trio with 3 different SUTs in here. Okay, and that's running these 3 arms through the phono. And then I have 2 phono stages inside my Dart preamp, and that's running my mono. Okay, so I have 5 channels of preamp, but I'm only using 4. 2 turntables. This is a CS port, CFT1, with a linear tracker arm, an Audio-Technica cartridge, and then this is the Esoteric T1, including the upgraded clock, okay, which is part of the T1, okay, that you can add. And it is a magnetic idler. So an idler, it's a rim drive, but with a magnetic wheel that turns the platter. And then it has a magnetic bearing, okay? So that's the T1. Okay, so then my other sources are my 2 tape decks. So these are very, very special tape decks. These are from the mid-70s to 80s. It's an ATR 102. There's 2 of them, a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. And so these were sort of the standard for in-studio recording from Ampex for North American studios in the sort of in the 70s and 80s. And then these are preamps, 4 different preamps. 2 channels are for the 1/2 inch and 2 channels are for the 1/4 inch. And so these are MR70, which is a legendary Ampex deck from the 60s. So these are combined. So instead of using the stock outputs of these decks, it uses these MR70s. They use a New Vista metal tube. So it's tubed, okay? And so that's my tape deck, and then I have a switch box and a cable over to the preamp. Okay, so those are my sources.
Okay.
Okay? And then I'm going to turn the lights on so you can see the rear of the room better. Okay, so then my amplification is the Dartseal 468 monoblocks. And then you can see I have those are about 500 watts a channel into 8 ohms. Okay, so those are monoblocks. And then I have the active devices underneath it, which is called a Tachiotana, which so like you'd put an electron microscope onto. Okay, so I have those 2 there, and you notice I have all my cables suspended, and that's so.
That's new, I think, since I was
Well,
here.
yeah, but it's been about 3 years I've had that, and that's so the active devices can work. You have to unweight the cables,
Right.
so they don't dampen the active devices. Okay, so all the cables are suspended. And then I have some grounding. I have the N-Trek in the back, I have the tri-point in the front. That's grounding on the amps and also on the bass towers. Okay, so there's a a lot going on here, but it's just everything is tweaked to the last degree and optimized. Okay, and back there, those boxes back there are power supplies for the active devices. So they're linear power supplies. So that makes quite a performance difference. So just having an active device has pluses and minuses, but once you have it designed for music reproduction and optimized, that's what the Takayatana package is. Okay, so then the speakers are the Evolution Acoustics MM7, and they're twin tower. This tower here is passive, and this is active with 2,000 watt amplifiers, 2 on each, and it's fully adjustable with analog pots. And it crosses over about 35 cycles. So this tower does under 35, and this does over 35 passively. Okay, and they're designed to work together. It's a fully integrated system. Okay, so let's see what else. Something else that's kind of important is come on out here and into my for my AC power grid. This here is called a Equitech 10WQ, and this is that's the power grid. So everything is on an isolation transformer, a 10 kVA isolation transformer. So I'm not connected directly to the power grid, and then I have separate dirty power for my lights and everything HVAC. So that's for the room. Okay. So the room I bought the home in 2003, and then had this room built in 2004. So I've been in the room 21 years. Okay, and I would say it took 11 years for me to get the room to where I've really enjoyed it, and I feel like it's been acoustically right since about 2015. Okay, so it was very painful learning curve. So, but I feel good about how it is now, and I've made some changes. I'm not going to get into the acoustics of it, but maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's a big one. What are the overall dimensions of this room?
It is 21 by 29 by 11.
And that's going to the exterior?
That is the cocoon. The cocoon of 2 sheets of 5/8 with glue between the cocoon is 21 by 29 by 11. And then everything is built, and you'll notice there's nothing painted in here. There's no sheetrock. It's all 3/4 inch plywood, finished grade plywood. So everything is wood in here. There's no sheetrock.
I like that.
Okay, and it's oval. The shape of the room is oval. There's no 90-degree corners, and there's a lot of passive.
You have bass traps incorporated into some of those spaces.
Only here. There's only right. I used to have more bass traps. Now there's a bass trap here, a bass trap here, here, and here. Used to be the whole ceiling was a bass trap and the front sides, but it was over damped, and that's over the 11 years of learning about the room. I had most of the bass traps eliminated.
And those traps are hidden, sort of, so to speak, behind these little panels.
But it's a huge bass trap.
Right.
I mean, it's 18 inches by 11 feet by 18 inches. That's a big bass trap.
Right.
And that's the same size as that one too. So that's built into the wall. So in the rear, there's 4 bass traps. The front has no bass traps. But the room has, well, you've heard it before. The bass is pretty smooth.
The bass is fantastic.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that struck me when I came in here the first time.
Yeah, so the bass is really good. Part of it is the speakers and the fact you have multiple sources of bass. These 4, there's enough separation in distance that you have multiple sources. Plus these 4 drivers, top and bottom, these are 11-inch. They're they're woofers. They're mid woofers. So they go from about 30 cycles all the way up to 250. So really you have 8 sources of bass here, and that helps to smooth the room out too. Just like you'd have stacked subwoofers.
It's absolutely extraordinary. Like the first time I walked in this room and you were playing music like you are right now, and it was immediately apparent that this is a special acoustic room.
Well, you can walk around and your voice is very natural wherever you stand.
Anywhere.
I mean, if you lean against the wall, you can get a little bass. I mean, literally lean against the wall, you can feel. But other than that, it is pretty even wherever you sit.
Yeah, I actually came all the way back here in this corner the first time I was here.
Yeah.
I'm like way back against the wall, and I'm listening, and you're playing music for someone. And
Yeah,
I
well,
was
you've got
like,
a
wow.
big bass. You're standing next to this.
It wasn't until a few minutes later then I looked, and then I realized, oh,
Yeah, so,
this.
but it wasn't always
this
like
right
that.
Here is actually a trap.
2004 to 2015 to really go through a lot of learning and a lot of effort. Had some help, people doing measurements from time to time. I'm not a measuring guy, but people have done that in this room, and people that know what they're doing, like Gary Coe from Genesis and some other people like that, who have helped me out with some knowledge, and I learned along the way. So I would say that it was a long road. You know, I thought I was in bliss when I first moved into the room, and then 11 years later, you know, since then I really haven't changed anything, and that was 2015. So I've just improved my sources since then. I haven't really changed any acoustics. So
my understanding was you started with a professionally designed room, and then you've made two major efforts to revise that and improve it.
Well, to be fair to the designer, his name's Chris Hustins, and if you look on Led Zeppelin 2, he's one of the engineers.
Okay.
So he's a studio designer. So what he said is, Mike, I'll put a bunch of bass trapping in, but over time you may take some away, but you can never add it. It really isn't realistic to add bass trapping to a room, you know, but you can certainly take it away. It's easy to take it away, which is what I did. So his prediction of that, and the bones of the room are great. I wouldn't want any, if I was building another room, this is what I build. Okay, I just wouldn't have the bass traps that I had to take out. So in the context of things, yeah, I invested a bunch of money initially, and probably I've spent $10,000 removing bass traps. But in the context of what I spent on the room, it's a pittance and almost a rounding error, you know. So I'm very happy with what he did, and everything he did. Nothing he did has slowed me down. Let me put it that way.
And these panels up here, this was like the last, I think you said the last
well, the last thing I did really was the cloth treatments you see on the surfaces.
Right, okay.
And what that was is the room had a huge amount of slap echo, but you had all this live energy.
Right.
Okay, so the last thing I really did was I recognized that I had excess energy, and most rooms don't have enough. So I had excess reflective energy, and so I had to experiment to control that, and that's really the last thing I did. And then the other thing I did was I had a bass trap in the ceiling, which I closed up some of it, but then my son and I closed up the rest of it. So those are the last two things I did, and that took away a big suck out I had. That was back in 2015. So that's the acoustical story of the room.
Right.
And then the other thing is, I thought I'd be sitting back here where the sofa is, but as I tamed the room, I moved closer and closer. A lot of times you sit in the far field because the energy from the reflective is pushing you out. But once you solve your reflective issues, now you have the option of sitting closer. So now I sit in the near field, whereas I used to sit in the far field. So that's probably the other biggest thing I've done, is move from way back here to up here. So, I mean, if you look, I sit right, really, the center of the room, front to back, is right here, and I sit just a little bit past the center. And then the speakers are actually 9.5 feet from the rear of the room. So right here, in a 29-foot long room, I'm 9.5 feet into it for my tweeters and mid-range. The other thing is, all these drivers are phase and time coherent, and I have them equidistant from the sitting position. So I get a really good wave launch. Even though I have all these drivers, I get an aligned, a synchronized wave launch. So that's also, you talk about cohesion. That's part of it too. So you're not having to do a lot of monkeying around with a crossover and that sort of thing, and adjustments for that. Okay.
I never heard orchestral work sound better than I heard here.
Yeah.
It really is like
It
being
does.
in the
It does big
auditorium.
music. It really is good at big music, which was why I moved from my previous room. I lived in Redmond. I had a 12 by 18 by 11, 10 and a half room, and it was really good sounding, but it had limits to how much SPLs it could handle. And I had tweaked it very well. I learned a lot there, but I saw this barn. My wife and I were considering downsizing, and then I saw this property with the barn, and that was 20 years ago. So anyway, so that's kind of the system and the story. Any other questions?
Tell me some more about your tape decks, because I'm not the only one that's going to say this. I was here the last time with a group of audiophiles that came from Portland, and we were just like literally jaw-dropping when you put on a master tape.
Well, when you were here before, I had Studers,
Right.
and they were really good. There was 3 stock Studers,
Right.
and I had what they call a King Cello, which is an outboard device. Okay, and it was very, very good. Okay, but a friend of mine has been working on Ampexes for a number of years, and this is kind of his last word in tape decks, and a lot of it has to do with he's hot rodded these decks. I'm going to turn this down a little bit, just a little bit here. So give me a second. Okay, so what he's done is, first of all, he's improved the power supplies. So you can see the power supplies are out of the chassis and sitting down below. So he's improved the power supplies, he's improved the cabling, he's done a lot of work internally on the mechanicals of the actual transport and the tape deck to improve on the level of the stock performance. This is better than brand new 40 years ago. Okay, both of these decks. Okay, then the next thing he's done is he's improved the heads, and I can't really get into some of the things because it's proprietary, but he's improved the heads, and these particular tape preamps are exceptional. The MR70 is a mythical design, and it's difficult because it has such low noise and high gain that if you can tame it, then you can hear farther into the tape. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, just imagine something that's more dynamic and lower noise than anything they've had. And then he's done a lot of grounding work between these and a lot of hot rodding. So I'm not the one that really can explain it. There's a thread on What's Best Forum about these. If someone's interested, they could go to that and Google ATR 102 MR70 and they could read about it. Okay, and there's more detail there. But my friend Andrew, who now owns ATR Service, which is a company, and he services decks all over the world in studios, as well as selling some to audiophiles. But he also builds cables. And so part of this is everything is hardwired with his cables. Like this cable here that goes across the floor, that's his cable. I have some others in some of my components. So part of it is that he's kind of a savant, and he's got some, if I was buying cables now, I'd buy his cables.
Right.
And I've had some pretty spendy cables here. But so it's a combination of everything that he's done. They're hot rodded and they're optimized. And I'd say as far as the stock units, an ATR 102 is on the same level as a Studer A820, which is what I had. But these are more friendly to be hot rodded because the Studers have a lot of digital technology in their control systems, and this is more analog. So it's easier for a guy like Andrew to hot rod it. The Studers are more problematic for that. They have equal performance because most of the performance in a tape deck, assuming the transport's right, is really the heads and the preamp, right? Because that's the output. But he's done a lot of things here. So again, I'm not the guy who can give you chapter and verse on it.
But just to be on the same page so that everybody understands, basically when you say in the preamp, this component
that's
would
one channel.
normally be what would be inside the vast majority of tape
Well,
decks.
this has a stock,
It still has
and
it
it's
in
still
there.
very good. I mean, it's as good as the Studer that you heard.
Right.
Okay, but this is, maybe 3 or 4 levels beyond that.
Right.
So this is a unicorn at the top of the food chain for tape decks. I don't think there's one that's equal to this. Okay. And honestly, he still continues to try to enhance it. It's a moving target, but it's very good. We'll listen later.
Then why 2 decks?
Well, because I'm not qualified, and it's logistically difficult because of how much grounding and fine tuning it is to be able to go from a 1/2 inch to 1/4 on one deck. Most situations, if you have something stock, they're designed to be changed. But as much as this is refined and some of the details here, for me to swap heads and then swap all the cables and do it right, it's just too involved. So what I did was I bought 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. And these are playback only. I can't record. Where the Studers I could record. But the recording part detracts from the playback.
Right.
Okay, so this is at the top of the food chain in playback, is what I would say, even compared to my turntables.
So you can buy either 1/4 inch or half.
Yeah, and you could.
Well, sorry, they're both 1/4 inch.
Well, no, they're both half. This is
both-
a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
See how thick that is there?
Oh, yeah.
Versus this. So that's 1/2 inch, that's 1/4. But they're both, if somebody bought this one and they wanted 1/4 inch, they would just need to change these top pieces here. And then you'd have 1/4 inch. Now there's a little bit of EQ changes, but so I have 2 because I have 1/2 inch and 1/4. 1/2 inch, all other things being equal, 1/2 inch has higher potential. So 1/2 inch is better, although most of the time, maybe a lot of the best tapes are 1/4. So I have both because I own both, and that's what I had with the Studer too. Make sense?
Yeah, and they're both 2-track playback only.
Yes.
One
Yes.
1/4,
Yes.
1/2.
Correct. Yes. Yep.
And so you're buying master tapes that have been dubbed.
Yes. I mean, you're limited, and a lot of the stuff you're getting is gray market, so you don't know the provenance. It's not for the faint of heart, and you have to be careful. What I do is I compare the tapes to my vinyl. That's how I decide whether I'm going to buy a tape, because I have good vinyl, really good vinyl, and a lot of the titles are ones that I know. So, and I've done that for 20 years or 15 years since I've had tape decks. Is people will bring tapes over. Well, I compare it to the vinyl. If it's a lot better than the vinyl, then it's good, because you can't really nail down the provenance of a tape. And even if you get one that's supposedly the actual master or a low generation dub, that doesn't mean it sounds good, because it's now 40 to 60 years old.
Right.
Okay, so the vinyl still could be better. So really, you have to have a reference, which for tapes, it's vinyl.
That's
Okay.
the crazy part, is that with all the compromises involved with vinyl, but still it lasts forever.
Well, it's kind of indestructible.
Yeah.
And the tape, honestly, I've had some tapes for now almost 20 years, and they don't deteriorate if they're modern formulations and you take care of it.
Right.
Okay, so, I mean, tape is like having a $500 bottle of scotch. Now, you're not going to drink it with every meal. Like vinyl, you can play all the time, right?
Right.
I mean, I have 12,000 records, so I can play that all the time, and I do. Tape isn't like that. You're going to have maybe 100, maybe 200, maybe 300 tapes, and of the genres you like and the titles you like. And then when you want to have that $500 shot of scotch, then you have it. Okay, but you're not doing that all the time, because 300 tapes, you'd get tired of them really quick if you were doing it all the time.
So when I've been here, I heard Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here,"
Yeah, still one of my best tapes.
and that was
Yeah.
like, nobody wanted that to end.
No, it was like we would have Yeah. It's pinch me
You got
time.
out. We let you live, but
Yeah.
we
No,
didn't want to.
Well, and now it sounds even better on this. Than
That
what you-
was my next point. Was
Yeah.
what we heard.
Yeah.
There was like plenty of room left, and then the other one was I believe Led Zeppelin, and that one
Yeah.
kind of freaked me out when
Yeah.
I heard
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
feedback on that. It was like live.
Although, let me tell you, since then I've improved my vinyl, and I would have to say that Led Zeppelin tape, my vinyl is now better than that.
Really
Yeah.
remarkable.
I mean, I'm just full disclosure, because the lead, that's the thing about tape. Tape and vinyl have a love-hate. I mean, as you improve your vinyl, you're going to pass some of the tapes. And then when you improve your tape, it's going to pass again because they're both using the same source, right?
Right.
Okay, so it is a moving target. And there are cases, I mean, when I first got tape, I would say 90% of my tapes were better than the vinyl. And then it got to eventually to where only a third of my tapes were better than the vinyl. And then I got these, but then I improved. So it's a moving target. Right now, I'd say I have about 66% of my tapes are better than my vinyl, is what I would say. So it's a moving target. And if let's say you have a modest vinyl system, or let's say a good but not great, now probably all my tapes are better. So it just depends. Because I have two different $100,000 turntables there with a $40,000 phono stage. So that's a high standard,
Right.
so that's the thing. How good's your vinyl? That's the only way to judge the tape.
What were the upgrades that brought the vinyl up to this level?
Well, this esoteric with this clock's 110 grand. Okay, right there. This turntable and that clock. And
The
then
clock
I've got,
is for the motor.
yeah, and then there's this arm here is the field coil arm. It's a field coil arm made in the Netherlands. I didn't have that when you were here. Now this is the Durand, but it's an upgrade. It's a limited edition Durand, and then I've got a Dava cartridge here, and that's a. I might have had one of these. That's an esoteric gold, but that's a very special one. So the point is that my vinyl has not stayed still. It's improved. So, and then I've added this underneath the esoteric to the active device. So there's, but I haven't. It's been a couple years now I've had this. And then the CS port, still really, really good. So that's about a $60,000 turntable, including the arm. Okay, and the only reason I mentioned dollars is that if you have a modest turntable, it might be cheaper to get great sound by buying a tape deck than to try to get vinyl. Because not only do you have to buy the vinyl, but the turntable, but to get good vinyl is expensive. And there's a lot of it. So it just depends on, maybe you're a digital guy, but you want great sound. Well, a tape deck might be actually, even though it's expensive, it might be cheaper depending on how much digital, how much analog you're listening to. So there's a lot of ways to look at it. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then the Dava reference field coil cartridge, and then the power supply for the cartridge is there. And then this is the primary control field coil arm, FCL. And then the power supply for that is back there. And then this is an esoteric Master Gold Mark II moving coil cartridge. This is the Samil Mono cartridge here with a Glance MR, I think it's an MH1200S. Okay. And this is your esoteric T1.
Is this your preamp down here?
This is the Dartzel preamp, and here's the charger power supply over here, and it's battery powered.
Ah,
So there's batteries
okay.
inside that,
Yeah.
and that's the power supply charger there, the red box there. And these are power supplies for these active devices.
Is this a Black Diamond racing shelf?
You know why I have it here? Because when I set records down here, these little pedestals get in the way. So I have it here to raise the record so I don't fight this. Does that make sense? I just happen to have it. It probably dampens the top of the shelf a little too. But yes, it is a black diamond. I just happen to have it and it fit the spot. You know, you use the tools you have. Everybody's got their little gear drawer, right? With all the kinds of stuff. And I've got a little bit after 30 years of doing this. Exactly.
There was a time when that was.
Yeah, no,
really...
it's still, it's effective.
Right.
It works.
I had a lot of it. My whole system was
yeah.
using
Well,
this
I
stuff.
had, yeah.
Back in the 90s.
And I had Monaco, GPA Monaco racks, which were, you know, a lot of the carbon fiber. So.
And these are wood. These are a change from
yes,
when I was here.
Yes, I had the Adana, and I did upgrade to this. Really, I wanted to have something that looked better. And this actually performs a little bit better. These are the massive audio racks. And then that's over here. That's what I have over here also with the tape decks. So they're solid wood, solid hardwood. And then I have Nordos, the Nordos, what I think, Tough Foot or whatever they're called, on the bottoms. So they're a solid hardwood, and they do work really well. And they're not expensive. They're pretty reasonable. Massive audio.
And they're
made
not
in
adjustable
Toronto.
though. So
Pardon me?
They're not adjustable. It doesn't look
No,
like.
no.
So you tell them the shelf spacing you
Yes,
want, and
yes.
they build them to order.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, I really like them. They've been great, and the Adana was just a little busy, and I had all these legs everywhere, and you know, I prefer this, even though the Adana is very good.
So this is a separate.
That's a cloth. Yeah, separate piece.
That could be like independent. It's completely independent.
Yeah, exactly. Because I needed to have these two esoteric pieces close to each other. So this is the power supply for the turntable, and that's the clock for the turntable. I also use the clock for this transport also.
Right. And what's isolating this under the massive rack?
That's a footer. There's a ball bearing between two pieces of the Babinga, and this is a separate shelf. I had a separate shelf for this too here, but then when I sold my NVS turntable, that freed up this. So then I didn't need this because this is better. This is the active device under this esoteric.
Pretty impressive.
Thanks.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, it just, I've been in the room 21 years, and you know, my goal was to finish my system before I retired, so that, because you know, it's expensive, so I did that. And the last things I've been doing the last 5 years was improving my sources.
Now, are these?
That's a start. No.
Is that just for leveling? That's not an isolation type. It's
only
just kind of a
that
cone?
I put the discs underneath the footers, so that the wood wouldn't depress. Those little discs.
And these kinetic things, they're
those are the wave kinetics. Those are they call those the attenuates.
And then I see these little things on a lot of stuff.
That's the Walker audio pucks. Those are lead-filled pucks. They eliminate the resonance. They absorb resonance. Yeah, lead-filled pucks. Yeah, so I've had them forever. Probably 25 years I've had those Walker pucks. And I use them wherever I see the potential of a resonance.
And what's this little thing here?
Okay, so that's the DS audio. Let me turn it on. This is a anti-static.
Oh, okay.
So that's your negative ion device.
Right.
And then this is the CS port, which is the same, doing the same thing, but this won't work with this based upon the space. So even this one I have to have near my mono. So this one isn't. It'd be better if it was like an inch closer, but there's really no way.
You have too many arms.
yeah. So but those are negative ion devices. I don't leave them on. I just turn them on and off.
So they just kind of like scatter out some ions over
well,
here.
what they do is they eliminate the static.
Right.
So two things. Number one, there's less noise. Okay. And number two, when you put the record away, it doesn't have as much dust. because I don't like to multiple clean my records. There's only a few that I'll clean more than once.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want I don't want to be futzing with stuff, because if you're using wipes and this and that, you're bringing as much in negative as you are eliminating. I just don't want to touch stuff. So that
Is it like ions and cations? Or is there these ions streaming same?
well,
stream out of-
it broadcasts negative ions to neutralize static. Okay, so whatever the benefit of that is, that's what it's doing. Okay, and I can hear the difference. Okay, it's not doesn't make a big difference, but what it does is it eliminates. I mean, I get, you get static charges in here, so it eliminates that. It lowers the noise a little. Okay, and you have less dust accumulation on your records. So there's a lot of different ways people use the ion gun, but those
I've
things.
sprayed, there's a laundry anti-static laundry.
And
spray.
I had
You have to be careful not to get it on.
and I had those guns, the basically
Zero
hair
stat.
dryers. I had all that stuff.
Right.
But they last for about half the side.
Right.
This is
Right.
permanent. You turn it on, you don't think about it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So they're not cheap, but
Effective.
Yeah, but they work and they take. I just don't think about cleaning records. I brush my cartridges and that sort of thing.
Do you have that DS Audio gizmo that like centers that you put on it?
No, but that does work.
I've heard the demo.
Yeah.
Gary Wagner, I think it was,
It works.
the audio analyst.
It
did
works.
a-
Yeah. But
You could hear the demo on YouTube.
life is too short.
Yeah, it's fussy.
What you would have to do, and then keep track of things, and it's like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I just decided that's not a road I'm going down. I totally buy into the fact that it's legit, no problem. But
It was easy to hear. I was like,
yeah, but
I couldn't believe it.
But
when
when
I
you
could hear it
start,
on
when
the
you look at
video.
what it takes to actually get it to work, because you have to basically elongate the hole, and then you have to mark it so you know where it's elongated.
Each time you play it.
And it's like, no, I'm not going there. I just decided, okay, I acknowledge that it's better that way. And if I had one record I always played, that'd be one thing. But I have 12,000. And so I'm just not going to go there.
And then it seems like you pretty much have to leave it on there. And so is it as good of a record weight as, like, if you'd like to take it off and then put your record on it?
Yeah, and I've watched how they do it, and I've just decided it's a bridge too far for me. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not doing it.
I can't blame you. I would need to experience it myself.
Not going to do that. No. So anyway, okay.
And that, folks, is from the guy who did this. So, there is a bridge for everyone.
Well,
We all find our point.
when I come in the room and I want to listen, I want to have a great experience.
Yeah.
I want to have a pinch me experience where gosh, I'm here. I get to come in here. I want to always feel that way. And if there's something that's work that I don't want, that I'm not going to do, then I'm not going to invest the time and energy into it. If that makes sense.
Speaking of which, let's play some music.
Okay, so what do you want to hear? Tell me which one.
Play me something that sounds good. You've got a lot of music.
All right. Okay. So are you interested in any digital?
Not really.
Okay. So you've got the world's best digital, and yet you don't want to listen to it.
You've changed all that since?
The Watt-X.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Do you ever?
Yeah,
heard-
because I'd like to hear
Have
some
you ever
good-
heard of level 4 Watt-X?
No.
Okay. Well, Google that.
Wait, is that the thing that Robert Harley's got? It looks like the stuff he's got in his room. So I'm going to, if he'll let me, I'm going to be in Albuquerque.
Oh, of course, he's
And-
in Santa Fe.
Okay.
He's in Santa Fe.
Okay, close. I'm going to be,
Okay.
he's on my list
Okay.
to get a hold of him.
Okay.
And, okay, so
Yeah.
That's good.
No, yeah. Now, so who knows? I mean, as far as there's so many opinions, and everybody has an opinion about DACs. Okay. Turntables, it's kind of different. It's weird how the culture is different, but people have strong opinions about DACs. Everybody is an expert on DACs. Okay. And I can only say I've done my work on it. I'm not going to get into that. If somebody wants to research what I've done on DACs, they can do that. But for my money, this is it. Now there's DCS just brought out a very expensive DAC that supposedly is competitive with this. It's probably really good, But for my money, this is it. Okay, and it reminds me of my vinyl. Okay, so
Well, let's start with that. Do you have Jennifer Warren's The Well?
sure. So have a seat. I'll sit back here. Do you want that particular cut?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, give me a second here.
I don't think they have Born in Time anywhere except on the 45 LP.
Which I have, of course. But
Let's build a bonfire for the stories we tell of the wild years, the wasted tears, and the silent way they fell. See the curls of smoke rising up to the big old sky as the moonlight falls down to those distant hills. Oh, I don't want to be anywhere else anymore. Let's go to the well. Better believe my faith in you is as wide and steady as a Texas moon. When this stuff starts running through, it's all innocent wonder and a face of thunder, feeling like something is coming soon. Yesterday I thought that I walked alone and that love was just a memory, but a nightingale followed me back home where my love was waiting there for me. I had lost my faith, as lovers often do, when the storm clouds gather overhead. But a nightingale sang a note so true that I knew I'd lost my fear instead. And to think that I said love was for fools, and that time would never heal these old wounds. But the nightingale saved a prayer for me in the twilight. He played a faithful tune. I have heard the lark over in the vale, and I've heard the lonesome whippoorwill, but the sweetest song is the nightingale's, and I know I'll never get my fill. And to think that I said love was for fools, and that time would never heal these old wounds. But the nightingale saved a prayer for me in the twilight. He played a faithful tune, but the nightingale
It's Serial Gold Mark II.
Well, it's a, okay, so, you know, probably I shouldn't get into that. So let's call it a special at Serial Gold.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that, okay? Because this is not exactly, this is out there. Okay, so it has more gain, so I gotta turn it down a little bit. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Different cut here.
In the lonely night, in the blinking stardust of a pale blue light, you coming through in black and white, where we were made of dreams. You were blowing down the shaky street. You're hearing my heartbeat in the record-breaking heat, where we were born in time. Not one more night, not one more kiss, not this time, baby, no more of this. Takes too much skill, takes too much will, it's too revealing. You came, you saw, just like the law. You married young, just like your mom. You tried and tried, you made me smile. You left me reeling with this feeling. On the rising curve, where the ways of nature will test every nerve. You won't get anything you don't deserve. We were born in time.
Discipline remains merciful.
And now would you take this far nonsense? Now which is it?
Sure.
So you think you could tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can you tell a green field from a cold steel rail? A smile